What's going on, Workforce? Brian here, and today's video brought to you by Work2Game and in cooperation with Gamer Escape. We're going to be doing a Dragoon controller guide, level 70 for Stormblood. Thank you very much for voting and telling me that you wanted to see a Dragoon controller guide. So let's go ahead and just do this thing. Let's dive into my layout, my HUD, my settings, all of the above. And let's talk about the almighty and ever-powerful floor tank that is the Dragoon. Now, I only kid about being a Dragoon and being a floor tank. It is a common joke, but I sympathize with that idea. Having played this job, having experienced it, I find that I am constantly caught off guard by various AoEs. You get into the zone, you get focused in on the rotation. The rotation is king, and at the end of the day, I find myself really struggling. Now, if you're struggling with learning any job, I highly recommend you use the UI. Set up these hotbars so that you can lay out various combos, various openers, so that you don't have to go off of memory. You can start to train and teach yourself various things. That's just an aside. We have a full guide on that here on the channel if you're looking at how to set that up. We also have a full guide diving into the UI. If you're really wanting to know how I customize it, we're going to go over it, but we go over it in much more detail on that. So you might be able to check out that guide. Link should be in the description of this video or in a card up as well. First thing we're going to be doing is our layout. The top hotbar, you're not clicking on it. That's usually the #1 question. How do you interact with this bar? This bar is just to communicate your cooldowns to you. So feel free to go ahead and set up any actions that you wish to put here. It really doesn't matter. Typically, I like to highlight various things that might be on the expanded cross hotbar, things that aren't immediately available, things that I might have macro to cooldown to. That way I can kind of always see them and it tells me if they're ready or not. Pretty much, it's pretty straightforward. Second Wind and Bloodbath. I have those macroed together, and we'll cover that here in a little bit. Invigorate, True North. This also takes place after 4.4 when you have all of your cross-roll abilities, so there was a little bit of arrangement that had to happen. Blood of the Dragon, Dragon Sight, and Battle Litany. My favorite ability, honestly. I just love that. Dragonfire Dive, Shatter Spine Dive, and Jump. So here are my 3 jumps listed here. Now, on the W cross hotbar, which is the left side, I have it set up to when I use an ability that it's going to automatically return my focus here. So if I use like blood, there you go. Now I'm automatically focused in on this. There's a lot of different ways that we can go about it, and I'm actually toying around with the idea of doing an expanded cross hotbar tutorial, updating my guides for it. Let me know in the comments below if you're interested in something like that. Anyway, on the left side, I got Goad, Elusive Jump, Arm's Length, and Crutch. Being that these 3 are cross-roll abilities, just keep that in mind. You have access to all of them, so there's really no picking and choosing anymore. Mirage Dive, Sonic Thrust, Doom Spike, and Garaskogel. This is, the up, down, left, right kind of combination. I move things to the up, down, and left, right section, like you can see over here and over here, because when I'm moving, I don't have immediate access on a controller to the D-pad. So I kind of put ABXY, my most important attacks here, so that way when I'm moving, I'm going to have access to them, and those are my combos. So here you got Impulsive Drive, Disembowel, and Chaos Thrust, and then Wheeling Thrust. So this is kind of one circle combo right here. Again, ABXY or ABYX on an Xbox controller. And then on the left-hand side, I've got pretty much my straight up, other combo, True Thrust, Vorpal Thrust, Full Thrust, and then Fang and Claw. So that kind of goes here, and then combos over here, and you just kind of keep that bouncing back and forth. Starting with the up, down, left, and right, we got Dragonfire Drive, Blood of the Dragon, Jump, and Battle Litany. You'll see that Spine Shatter Dive is in here. I kind of prioritize these. Find out whatever works best for your muscle memory, but I do include Spine Shatter Dive on my expanded cross hotbar, which we'll cover here in a second as well. We already covered the ABXY, so over here on the W cross hotbar, we've got Life Surge, Blood of the Dragon, Feint, and Heavy Thrust. Heavy Thrust being that skill you want to pop at least every 30 seconds. Keep that up for its damage boosting effect. Now if we go over to cross hotbar 2, which is the expanded, you can see here, this is where I've got True North, which is put it here because it's hidden here. Diversion, Bloodwind, which is the combination of these 2 in a macro form. To show you guys that in case you're curious, if you haven't used the macro system before, you can go ahead and jump in here, and all I have to do is find it while I talk. And having located it, you can see Second Wind and then Bloodbath. It's going to use Fail Through, so you're going to actually hit the ability multiple times to trigger both abilities. So you just kind of hold it down, press it a couple times. Macros are not necessarily advisable if you're going into Savage and the highest content. If you're trying to push your DPS as far as possible, just be aware of them. Off the global cooldown abilities tend to be better for it, but sometimes people do ask me about putting in just global cooldown abilities. into macros, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It's doable. I'm not going to stop you, but just, you know, be careful. Blood and Side. Here's a good example of a global cooldown, or off the global cooldown, Dragon Sight. Basically, I'm going to have it auto-toggle my 2, 3, or 4 position. I don't want to sit here and have to specify a target. I just want it to, you know, use the ability. This is probably not the best case if you're trying to maximize your DPS. You probably want to be a little bit more specific with who you're applying this to. In my case, I'm going to apply it to a tank and go from there, because the tank is going to probably be the closest person to me and the highest person up on my list, depending on my party sorting feature. Again, use this, don't use this, just, you know, use your best, indiscretion, best judgment there. Invigorate, Leg Sweep, and Piercing Talent. Now, if you play more than one job in this game, which the game encourages you to do so to some extent, put abilities that have the same effect, the same way, the same thing in the same spot. So Piercing Talon and Leg Sweep, they're always going to be there. They're all like, here's a stun, and then there is a ranged attack. I do this for all of my jobs. This makes it very easy. It makes it transitioning from one DPS job or one job to another job the same. So do yourself a favor, do yourself your brain favor, do your brain favor, and make those changes for you as well. Finally, let's go ahead and just like on the 3, you can't drag and drop abilities here, by the way. You have to actually set these to a spot, and we'll show you how to do that towards the end of the video. And then you can drag them on and drop them here. You can actually use all of the bars, and that's a setting as well, and we'll cover that here in a little bit if you're looking to try to experiment a little bit more. Lastly, if I go right and left, this is my shared. I have sprint, mounts, books, marking targets, my limit break. All of that is controlled via my sharing system. So if I jump into, I think it's 7, you can see here my cross hotbar 7, that's where those abilities are set. I don't need sprint, and I want sprint to be everywhere. I want abilities like my limit break on the same spot. So that way, from a muscle memory perspective, I can easily just jump into various things and do various things as needed. So it ends up becoming very simple to use. So do yourself a favor, make it easy on you. And that is my setup. That is my cross hotbar layout. Let me know if you have any questions about that in the comments below. And let me know, feel free to take this, make this your own, make it work for you. Hopefully I'm just here to inspire, but if you do use this, let me know what you think. And let me know if you make any changes as well. I'd love to hear from you. All right, so let's take this time to jump into my HUD layout. I've got a DPS layout set to 3, so you can kind of play around and change it. You see I've got 4 and 5 hotbars here. These are so that I tell myself my rotation. This is my opener that I'm using that I'm trying to learn and memorize. I've got my MA list here, my party list here, my target bar here. Feel free to play with this, and it's all about making it your own. But if you want to see, I've got my Dragon Gauge, Progress Bar, Status Info, and Enfeeblements, and other. Now you can break these all up. You have all of this power controlled under your UI settings. We dive into all of this in a deep dive guide. Please check it out. Let me know what you think about it if you guys got questions there. Hotbar 3, this does not have buttons, little items on it, so it really keeps a clean and simple look. I've got my left and my right cross hotbar, my main cross hotbar, my parameter bar, and experience bar. None of this is necessarily important. None of this is just dramatically, critical. The reason I do a lot of this is I tend to kind of keep my focus, especially as a Dragoon, listed here. Play around with this, guys. Make this your own. Learn the HUD system. You can really create some really cool layouts, and I would love to see it. So make sure you email us, you message us, tweet at us if you got any kind of interesting layouts you want me to see. It's always really interesting, and I always appreciate it. So anyway, do that if you wish. But again, we go over this in a deep dive guide. I just wanted to make a real highlight note about 4, 5, and 3 because these are hotbars that I've got set up. They actually have a lot of settings, and let's go ahead and dive into our settings. Under character configuration, here is where, as a Dragoon, you're going to want to make some changes, maybe on a controller. It's going to be up to you. You can turn off automatically lock on target, or you can turn it on depending on if it's on or off by default. I started with it on, and it helps, especially when attacking. So if I turn this on, just to give you an example, when I target, it's going to automatically lock in. It's going to give me this kind of rotation that you can see here. I can press down on the right stick, and that's going to disengage. Meaning, if I'm not in lock on, if I'm just doing a fight, like I can move about real easily and cleanly, and then you can press down on the right stick to initiate that lock on target again. So depending on what works best for you, use this to your advantage. It's kind of Legends of Zelda-ish with the lock on, but just keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and go back in. I'm going to turn that off because I'm not necessarily a fan of it. You can have a display of very potential targets, rings, and lines. So there's a lot of things here that can try to make your life easier, so just pay attention to it. Come in here and play. It's important more than anything else to have your various different filters turned on. Now I have custom, I turn off party members and all of this. When my weapon's out, I only want to focus in on enemies. You can do with it what you will, and you can actually have up to 4 other various customizations that you can easily cycle through L bumper and the various face button A, B, X, or Y. So keep that in mind, play around with this, master targeting. Targeting is going to be the best thing for you in the early stages of the game if you're just learning how to play your job. Okay, so let's go into the hotbar settings itself. I say turn off hotbar numbers. Don't want to see it. I've got enough on my UI already. I say hide unassigned slots. If I turn it off, you can see the various grayed out boxes for availability. So setting it up, you might want to have this off so you can see kind of how it's going to look, but then you can turn it off and that's going to give you that real clean setting that gives you that floating, I guess, ability icon. Then you can see your various hotbars and how they're kind of configured. You can set them up to various forms like up, down, left, and right. You're gonna have a lot of power there and a lot of things to play around with. The big case is sharing. If it's unchecked, that means it's not shared. That means it's job specific. You change your job, it's going to be a whole new hotbar. If it's shared, as you can see here is my 7 and 8, that means it's going to be used for everybody. So that's where my sprint is, where my limit break is, all those things are, and it's going to be hugely important for you. Then under cross, you have a lot of options here as well. You have tons of options. I say always display the W cross hotbar. You can turn that off and it's invisible until you access it, something of that nature. You can also have return to cross hotbar after W cross R input. That's what I was showing you earlier. If you turn that off, you're gonna actually stay in that area, and that gives you a lot of, I guess, flexibility when it comes to some of the other things I'm about to show you. You can also set position your W cross hotbar separately. If you want to keep them kind of in line at the same area, you can turn that off. You can turn that back on to easily play around with it. Now, expanded controls like we showed you here is the holding the left trigger and the right trigger. Same thing for the left and the right there. And then you can set it which hotbar it is. This then ties again back to sharing. Is it is it job specific? Is it shared across all? You be the judge. Then you have for the W cross hotbar, I set it only to 4. Now I can enable directional buttons, and you can see here, and those are now applied. So you can play around with that if you're really struggling with the new changes to the cross roll, ability. So just play around with that. And I've got it set to 3 left and 3 right, which are job specific. Now set selection, you can have it to where you can customize what hotbars show up when you press your right bumper. It would help if I was actually selected outside of the window so I could demonstrate that. So you can see here by just pressing and tapping right bumper, I just kind of cycle through. If I hold, I am given the ability to easily switch and set that. Now, when my weapon is drawn, I only have it on 1. I want to keep it locked on the hotbar 1. Anyway, that's just kind of the point of it. That's hopefully what's going to help keep you centered and locked on what you need it to be set up for. Now, you can do the same thing for PvP settings. Not going to go over it here. It's the same thing. It's just a matter of when you're in PvP. So if you're really trying to kind of play around with some kind of PvP builds, give that a shot, play around with that, and you'll be forever grateful. Those are the settings. That's my HUD layout. That's the hotbars. That's all the good stuff. Let me know if you guys got any questions or comments or concerns below. Next up, we're leveling monks, so we'll be hopefully knocking that out here in the coming weeks and having a good old time with it. So guys, if you like this guide, hit that thumbs up button, sub to the channel, like and share and fave and sub and blah blah blah. All the social media end credit stuff. I like to put it at the end rather than say, hey, thumbs up my video before you even watch it. But that's just me. This is my waxing poetics as I move into the end credits for it. Thanks to Gamerscape, thanks to Work to Game, thanks everybody for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.
Oh, excuse me. What's up, workforce? Chuck here, telling you you should totally like, favorite, subscribe, share, dance, raise your hands in the air. I'm off camera. I'm off frame. I'm new at this. Hey, listen. Yes. You haven't hit that subscribe button. You totally should. I recommend it. Chuck approved. Anyway, also, thanks to all the Patreons. You're in the corners. Whoa!